Islam was spread by the sword. Yeah, you should come to the Dawah Center, come to the Dawah Center where I've worked and where many people work, and look for the swords that we be hanging, on the walls. As soon as a non-Muslim comes and say, ha, you came to the right place. Let me see your neck. Nice one. Liars, man. It's nasty, these people. No shame. You know what sucks? What sucks is when people are liars, they know they are liars, and they continue to lie. It's shameless how bad things can get when it comes to the allegations against Islam and Muslims. Islam was spread by the sword. Well, I'll tell you what. If Islam was spread by the sword, we will have a lot of casualties by now. The Dawah Center would have to be burying new Muslims, they never made it to Islam, because we would have killed them first, every day. But guess what? No one has ever welcomed a non-Muslim with a sword. You have to differentiate between jihad and fighting in Allah's cause, which we will elaborate on extensively, don't worry, and between Islam being spread by the sword. These two are not the same. Don't try to make them the same. Because the only way they trick us is by our ignorance. See, the only way they're able to actually sell this lousy product is because we ourselves don't know. And so when we don't know, we're gullible. Anything they give us, we become doubtful, and we get afraid, and we try to hide things and say, no, this is not true. And why? Why? If you knew, if you had sound knowledge, all you have to do is convey it to the people. If they like it, marhaba. If they don't like it, big deal. I'm sorry, your problem is with your Creator. You can tell him on the Day of Judgment, by the way, I didn't like your religion and the rulings therein. And then He will know where to put you for your choices. It's not my business to twist around my deen for your convenience. If you like it as it is, congratulations, you're the winner. If you don't like it, then it's too bad for you. But we have to say the truth all the time. Now, in regards to the idea that Islam was spread by the sword, what does that mean, spread by the sword? It means that I come to you with some weapon, because they say, okay, not sword, now using guns. They try to play with games. Say, no problem, use whatever weapon. It means that I come to you, say, look, you better become a Muslim, I'm going to kill you. Now, I ask any Muslim here, and I want you to answer me audibly, so they will know, at different levels, different age groups. What do we call the person in Islam who declares something with his mouth while he doesn't believe it in his heart? A hypocrite. Where does he belong in our deen? In the lowest level of the hellfire. Guess what? We don't need them. The last thing we need among our ranks is a hypocrite. The last thing. In fact, if one wanted to say, please put a sword so I can declare my shahada, we say, we don't need you. Because you will be in a worse condition after you come to Islam. You being a disbeliever is better than being a hypocrite Muslim. Because as a disbeliever, you'll be in the upper level of the hellfire. As a hypocrite, you'll be in the lowest level of the hellfire. It's not even good for you. And it's not good for us. Because you're going to confuse us. Are you with us or are you against us? So this very idea is illogical. That we were forcing the people to become Muslims. What we did was, ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن. Call on to the way of your Lord with wisdom, excellent preaching and admonishment, and argue with them in a manner which is best. And that's how people entered into Islam. That's how they continue to enter into Islam. It was not done by the sword. Too bad for you. Why? Allah says, لا إكراه في الدين. This was also in the salah. There's no compulsion in the religion. قَدْ تَبَيَّنَ الرُّشْدُ مِنَ الْغَيِّ. The right path has become clear from the wrong one. Allah already made the truth and falsehood so extreme in their opposition to one another that only a super blind person, even a super blind person can see them. Even the blind person can see the variation between truth and falsehood. After that has become clear, you can't force someone to change his heart and become a Muslim with a gun, with a weapon, with a knife, with a sword. You cannot. Because the matters of the heart are with Allah. And putting a sword is not going to change your belief system. If you're afraid, you may say something to save your neck, but in your heart there's no control. No one can twist your heart to believe. They can twist your arm, but they can't twist your heart. So I don't understand where they got this from, but I will share with you some interesting information nevertheless. There's a non-Muslim historian by the name of DeLacy O'Leary, who wrote in his book Islam at the Crossroads, it was published in London 1923 on page 8. History makes it clear, however, that the legend of fanatical Muslims sweeping through the world and forcing Islam at the point of the sword upon conquered races is one of the most fantastically absurd myths that historians have ever accepted. It's just this big old lie that people have found okay to accept. And they seem deliberately or mistakenly to turn a blind eye against the Crusaders. And now what did the Crusaders do? First, let it be known that the Muslims ruled Spain for roughly 800 years. During this time and up to when they were finally forced out, the non-Muslims there were alive and flourishing. Additionally, Christian and Jewish minorities have survived in the Muslim lands of the Middle East for centuries. If Islam was spread by the sword, as in you were given a choice every time, become a Muslim or we kill you, there will be only Muslims on earth today. You won't find them in Syria, you won't find them in Lebanon, you won't find them in Palestine, you won't find them anywhere. They would have been killed by now. They are minorities. Why are they alive? Why are their churches still over there? Because Islam wasn't spread by the sword. Not in this sense. Egypt, Morocco, Palestine, and the list goes on. All of these are places where Muslims and sometimes Jewish populations exist up until today. Now, the spread of Islam stands in contrast to the actions of the followers of Christianity, who since the time of Emperor Constantine have made liberal use of the sword. After basing their conduct on biblical verses, you will find plenty of them that endorse and justify killing. This was especially true of the colonization of Southern America and Africa, South America and Africa, where native peoples were systematically wiped out or forced to convert. It is also interesting to note that when the Mongols invaded and conquered large portions of the Islamic Empire, instead of destroying the religion, they became Muslim. They conquered the Muslim land, and instead of them, falling, instead of the thing being the other way around, they wind up embracing Islam. Never happened in history, where the conqueror accepts the religion of the conquered. But that's because Islam was like that. The Philippines, and the list goes on. These were Muslim countries, Crusaders. The Spaniards and others are the ones who forced Christianity upon the people. Nowadays, they still do it. But now they've become more politically correct. So they know they have ways and they are slick in the way they do this. They still do it behind the scenes. But now, how do they do it in front of the people? They go to Muslim countries where there's poverty, they offer them food and drink, and they call them to Christianity indirectly or directly through their missionary work. So they're still doing the same thing, forcing the people to become Muslim because of their need. We didn't do that.